Oh my God, it's Wednesday.
Yes, it is. Not only is it Wednesday, but do you know that in about 1 month from today, 1 month, we're going to jump forward in time. Once again.
Did I miss a science report?
I guess you did, pal.
Oh no!
This is that yearly, clock screw up.
Oh, spring forward thing. Oh, you were freaking me out. I thought I'd missed some sort of sign. Okay, yeah. I got you.
That's what's happening there.
Outstanding. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is UFO Hump Day. Okay, that doesn't sound right now.
Phrasing.
Yeah. I had me a close encounter the other day. I humped the shill out of it. So, first of all, thank you, Chanel, for producing the show today. She's awesome. Thanks, Bill, for being our boss. And I want to thank John for showing up. Good morning, John. Your back got ganked this week, buddy. How you feeling? Oh, good. I can't hear you. You're muted. He's so used to being quiet, he forgets to unmute himself. Are you there? Yeah, in a minute.
In a minute.
Yeah. Oh, be there. Don't worry about me. Of course, while we're waiting for John to show up and answer the question, we have Martina Santana, who is from Venezuela, Ohio. And it's a weird place. It's a weird place to be from, Venezuela, Ohio. Martine, what do you think of Venezuela, Ohio? Does it feel like Ohio?
No, but it's better than Venezuela, Missouri.
Oh, now you make that joke. We actually have a Cuba and a Mexico here in Missouri. So, joke's on you. But
my home state, we've got a California.
There you go. And, well, like the real Venezuela, it's becoming quite socialist there. So, John, is your mic working yet? I want to hear how your back is doing.
I think so.
Oh, good. Yes, we can hear you. So the irony of this is you were putting the chair together, your new chair that was supposed to be supportive and help your back. And while you were putting it together, you hurt your back.
Yeah.
The irony is so ironic. I like that.
Yeah.
But how you feeling today?
I'm better. It's still a little sore, but it's getting better.
Oh, good.
800 milligrams ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, man. The Army uses that almost exclusively for a reason because the shit works. I survive on it.
My liver is shot, but the ibuprofen helps.
Amen to that. Now, I wanted to tell you guys we have a very special guest here this morning. I'm not sure if he's going to want to hang out with us. We're so wild and crazy. We're a couple of wild and crazy guys. If anybody remembers Steve Martin and Dan Aykroyd doing that shit back in the 70s. The 70s? Man, you're old. So we've got a gentleman here. And while I'm doing it, I'm going to unveil something very special. Martin, get ready to share the link in the chat when I do this. He is the head honcho. No, I'm not waiting for you. The head honcho of Fuel Up. He's the guy who created the single greatest thing ever. I mean, look, I joke about it. crack and cocaine is bad. It'll kill you. This shit's good. And it energizes me in a way I've not been in a long time, man. It puts a zip in my step. It puts some lead in the packer. Oh, wait, I shouldn't have said that one. That one's inappropriate.
No,
But
Gary,
here he is.
That was very inappropriate.
But hey, let's bring him in on that one. Let's see if he enjoyed that joke. Here we go. This is Kevin.
This is going to be fun. Good morning, guys. How are y'all doing?
Kevin Kiechler, how are you doing, my friend? It's really great to finally meet you this morning.
Likewise, it's a good put faces with names, and we're coming to you from Texas down here.
Say, you sound like you're from Texas.
I am from Texas. I might use y'all and fixing to a couple times, but we're out here.
I'm from Virginia, and I say y'all all the time. But I spent some time in Texas at Fort Sam Houston in the Army,
Awesome.
U.S. Army Medical Corps.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me on this morning. And
that's great.
Just a couple minutes about why I'm here and what we do and all about Fuel Up. I've been around this wonderful plant, centuries old. It's kind of a miracle plant, as we call it, called aloe vera. I thought you probably think I'm talking about something else, but it's definitely aloe vera. It's Ace Mannin is part of the extracts of aloe vera, which is the strongest part of the nutrient. But what we did is I decided about 3.5 years ago to create this hydration drink and about cellular health. And again, being around the aloe vera stuff for 28, 30 years now, and having taken extracts of that plant, I knock on wood, I don't get sick. I don't get colds very often. And I'm not making any claims. I'm just telling you about me. But, I don't get vaccinated with flu vaccinations or anything else because I just have an unbelievable immune system. And our product, we believe we have the finest cellular hydration drink with the strongest immune enhancing ingredient available. We call it Bilo. Bilo is 7 times stronger than anything we've ever had in the past. And like you were saying, Jerry, if you drink our Wake product, I'll run through the system real quick. We have a Wake, which the basis of our products are a proprietary formula, which helps with cognitive skills. So it helps with energy, concentration, focus. We worked on this years ago, and it made so much sense to bring it to our hydration product. So our Wake, all of our products have the proprietary formula in it, but our Wake has 180 milligrams of good caffeine. It's not the bad stuff. And you don't get jitters, you don't get shakes, you don't get crash.
There's no crash. That was the thing that blew my mind. 180 milligrams of caffeine, and I got no crash.
Isn't that awesome?
It blew my mind. And just because I want you to continue, but I wanted to point out the impact it had on all of us. And every single member of the team tried it. And we were all just blown away because it's not just feeling good for an hour, feeling good for 4 hours. Mine would go from 9 o'clock in the morning when I would drink it until I went to freaking bed that night at 9, 10 o'clock. I'd have that, like I said, I had that zip in my step. It's amazing.
A week ago, Gary will tell you that I was having a particularly bad day, out of sorts.
Just out of sorts. I know. He was having a rough, it was just a bunch of rough crap going on.
And I had the Fuel Up right here. I mixed up, Kevin, a cup of it and drank it within. And this is totally unsolicited, but it's true as God lets me sit here. I drank that drink, and within a couple of minutes, I was damn near back to normal, wasn't I, Gary?
Yeah. It was really funny. It was just like the shift. It was like, because I'll wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and what I do is I normally go to bed and sleep for another hour and wake up, and then it's like, oh, I feel completely different. That's the effect it had on him. And it was really quick. It put that zip, that energy back into him. And it's not just the caffeine, which a lot of people don't know how caffeine came into the lexicon of our drinking beverages and stuff. It's because the Pope, the Catholic Pope, approved coffee as a drink, and the world embraced it. And then near the turn of the 20th century, cocaine was used in Coca-Cola and suddenly they couldn't use that anymore legally. It was like, oh, we can't put that in there. Someone
Well,
says,
it was the
well,
Ottoman
let's refine the
Turks.
caffeine. The
It was
what?
the Ottoman Turks.
The Ottoman
that were
Turks. That's
trying
right.
to invade Europe, Vienna, and after the siege was beat off, they left a lot of their
Crazy.
stuff there, and a lot of the stuff involved coffee beans. Now, the Turks had originally been chewing the coffee beans for
That's right.
energy, but
There's
somebody
people that still do
figured
it to
out-
this day. Chew on
Oh,
the
yeah.
coffee beans.
Well, I've been known to chew a few coffee beans.
I've had a few myself in the Army. I was like, man, you trying to keep up with those idiots? Just chew
Yeah.
some. But I got to tell you, so we've got this history. And by the way, Don and I are both students of history, so we love shit like this. Then you do it. You encapsulate 180 milligrams of this stuff in there, and normally, if you drink that one drink in the morning, you should be crashing by 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is what was happening to me typically. But that doesn't happen. And how did you do it, Kevin? I don't understand.
It's a proprietary formula. I can't tell you. I'd have to kill you. No, seriously, y'all are great testimonials. And just a quick note, when they go to the site later, you look on the right side of the site and you'll see hundreds of testimonials. But you're right. I mean, I drink one in the morning around 8 or 9. And if I drink it down within 25 minutes, I'm going to start feeling, wow, I'm awake, I have energy. I feel just this feeling of well-being. And
that's it. Yeah, the well-being.
And I'm 6'6", 250-pound plus guy, and that stuff carries me all day. And it does not give me any jitters. So that's our wake. Then we have our play, which we're getting out to everybody. That's our whole system. Play is the same proprietary formula that hydrates you, but no caffeine. That's it. The only difference. But you can drink that all day long. And I've got runners and pilots.
I'm assuming a boost of B6 and B12 again.
I'm sorry?
Does it have a boost of B6 and B12?
Oh, yes. You've got all types of nutrients, electrolytes. We can put the list up here shortly or next time we get the show on. But yes, it's packed with vitamins, nutrients. And again, the big thing about how we design our products is it's real important to have synergy between the ingredients. And we use a Dr. Santiago Rodriguez, who actually was one of the guys who figured out how to make aloe vera ingestible back in the 80s. And like he says, if ingredients in all these products in the market, if they aren't developed properly, formulated properly, they're not going to work properly. You've always heard, you can take all these vitamins and you discard a bunch of it. But anyway, real quick, because I don't want to take up too much all this time. But so we call it advanced aloe hydration, AAH. And what happens is our BioLo, real quick, after you've taken the product and you feel the difference, because you'll feel the product working on you, right away. But after you've been on our product for 30, 45 plus days, the BioLo has been working on your immune system all this time. And you'll have an overall feeling of well-being. Your hair will grow faster, your nails grow faster, your skin will feel different. And you'll really start noticing that there's something going on here other than just giving me natural hydration. And that's what people don't realize. Oh, give me an energy drink or give me this drink or that drink. This product, there were 6 months in the R&D of the hydration part, 7 years in the proprietary part. And we had the feel the difference guarantee, and you will feel the difference. If not, we'll give your money back. But anyway, we have a rest, which is the same proprietary minus a little bit of the focus, because we don't want you to be focused in your sleep. But it has 10 milligrams of melatonin, and your body heals when you sleep. So what we do with our formula, it helps rejuvenate and helps you recover. And like I said, runners, our CFO is 73 years old, and he runs 20 miles every weekend, runs marathons all over the place. And he used to have leg cramps on Monday mornings. And he says, man, this is the greatest thing ever. But anyway, the one thing I want to point out, and then we can go from there. But, 70+% of us here in this country are dehydrated. And you'd be amazed at how many people walk in the emergency room and think they're having a heart attack when in reality they're dehydrated. And I played football and college sports and stuff. And I mean, if you ever had a heat exhaustion deal or not like a heat stroke, it's pretty scary. And that's all due to dehydration. Dehydration brings about inflammation. Inflammation brings about degenerative disease. So in closing on the technical part of this is, as Dr. Santiago says, if you don't, all these vaccinations and everything out there that's in the current events the last couple of years, if your immune system is not pretty good shape, then none of that stuff's going to help you. It's just like when you build a house, if your foundation's weak, doesn't matter what else you use. So that's my story today, and that tells you a little bit about our product.
Well, it's fascinating, man. And I got to tell you, normally, I don't give testimonials, man. I was blown away by the product. I really was. I will tell you one funny story. Chris, that does our Tuesday morning show, he made the mistake of chugging it because he was in a hurry in the morning. And there's this great graphic, the video of the little girl that's tried cotton candy for the first time in her life. And she's like, gets a mouthful, and then she goes, he says, that was him. He's like, holy crap, don't chug it.
I bring mine down right, pretty much all at once, and that's why I get going. But
you do a shot.
This is why we get up every morning at Fuel Up, is that we're helping people feel better, and we're more important.
It really does. I got to tell you, Kevin, it really does. The wellness that I felt, the energy that I felt, not just from the caffeine. The caffeine helps. I love caffeine. Keeps my headaches away. But good God, just the way I felt all day into the evening.
Not to go off script, but last night I made the mistake of watching the State of the Union address.
Oh, why would you do that?
Why would right you? After that,
Don.
It's true. It's true. I said, "My God, I better do it." It was either
fuel
that
up
or whiskey. Okay, so I fueled up.
We have a question for Kevin here. From
Cavatino Cavalryman Shea is a good friend of mine. Also, U.S. Army veteran. How many flavors are there in Fuel Up?
Okay, so there's the Wake we call it orange sherbet. It's kind of a little tangy. The Play is basically it's a fruit punch, as we call it. And then, of course, the rest is our Food Berry, which is a lavender flavor. And when we launched the product, we were like Coca-Cola when they launched, all sugar and all that. We had 17 grams of sugar in it, and it still didn't affect people the way you thought. We had diabetics on it, et cetera. But now our whole system is low-cal, low sugar, and we have 2 grams of sugar and 6 grams of carbs, period, 25 calories per serving. And anything we use in our ingredient deck is the best we can get. So any stevia or any of that stuff, we source out the best. We don't take just whatever we can get. And a lot goes into, when we manufacture this stuff. I mean, we quarantine the ingredients. We go through the whole shebang, and we make certain that if it's on that label, it's in that package, and vice versa. So, it's we love it, and I love hearing testimonies. I mean, seriously, I get chills when y'all talk and tell your story, because it's great. I mean, so many people think they're being hydrated about this, some of this junk that's on the market. And
well, it's fascinating you bring that up too, because I learned that because I worked in the medical field for years, and that 70% of people are walking around completely dehydrated. And as a medic and paramedic, I learned how to look for it, even in nursing when I became a nurse, checking the skin tagger. You pinch it on the back of the hand, and if it dams up, you're dehydrated. Also, if the back of your hand, the skin itself looks like the desert shapes, if you're seeing that in the back of your hand, you are dehydrated. Most people think they're hungry when they're actually thirsty, because they're dehydrated. One of the first things you learn in diet to lose weight is to make sure you hydrate, because it'll help curb your hunger pangs. And so you are so on the spot with that, and anything that helps hydrate people, man, is a good thing in my opinion. And I love that, God, man, that morning drink is something else. I don't know if I even want to try anything else because that one is so amazing. It's like, but I'm going to eventually try them all.
It's definitely our flagship product. My wife can't go start her morning without it. We've got a lot of our friends that are big, we got a 68-year-old pickleball player, it's a friend of ours. She drinks 3 to 5 wakes a day. Don't ask me how, I don't know, but they swear by it. And it's awesome. I can tell you another story, and if I have one more minute, you guys.
Yeah, go ahead, man. You take all the time you need.
You guys will appreciate this. When we developed the proprietary part of this, we did it for a weight loss product, and we did it for a anti-aging specialist doctor who also was a gynecologist. And I can tell you stories about that. A football guy, my buddies would say, "Hey, you got to go to this guy." And I went in there and waited 6 months to get in to see him. And I'm sitting there looking around the lobby going, "Why am I the only guy here?" But anyway, we'd spend 45 minutes talking sports. And then long story short, we created a capsulized formula, part of this proprietary ingredient. And now they've got between 3 clinics, 70,000 plus patients over all these years. And these women that are menopausal love that product. So we've got people that have depression, all types of different psychological challenges that drink our wake in the mornings and go, "Oh my gosh." So if it's a menopausal woman, if it's someone's depressed, if it's whatever, it just picks them up and they go, "What is happening here?" So and Jerry, you nailed it. I mean, what you're saying is what it's all about. So I challenge people out there to try it.
And that's really what I would do too, Kevin. I would say, don't just take our recommendation and try this. We challenge you to try it and see if it doesn't have a good positive impact on you. Because it sure did on all of us, the entire team.
Awesome. And y'all are gonna promote the offers how you do, and we're gonna always provide free shipping and again, feel the difference guarantee. If you don't like it, you have nothing to lose. Send it back. We'll give them our money back. And out of our we've got thousands, tens of thousands of customers, but out of all the testimonials we have, we're running about a 98% of a 5-star plus. So it's, we don't have a lot of people. Some people go, "I don't like the taste," or maybe due to the ice storms here in Texas, they might get their product delivered a day or two later. But, other than that, for the most part, everybody loves it. So,
I'm just so glad you came on the show, Kevin. Thank you so much for popping in here with us. And you're welcome back anytime you want to pop in, to talk about the product, because I'm sure people are curious. And as they try it, I'd like you to see their reactions to it in the chat. Because we have a very dedicated audience.
Okay.
As an aside, Kevin, I'm curious, are you experimenting with any other flavors?
So we have right now we have the 3. We're looking at probably second quarter, wanting to go to a liquid version, obviously for the grab and go side of the world, and we will definitely be adding additional flavors.
That's what I'm saying. By the way, some of us older guys really love that it kind of reminds us of Tang.
You're exactly right. And when we were in the labs, I said, "This kind of reminds me of Tang."
Tang, yeah, hell yeah, man.
I'm probably the oldest guy here. I'm 65, so I'll admit I drank Tang growing up. I don't think they had low cal or low carb Tang back then, but it's kind of like
no, it was chock full of sugar.
Yeah.
And Tang went to outer space.
That's right.
Oh yeah, baby.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because the basis of the Ace Mannin that's in our BILO, we actually, years past, it was on the space shuttle, and one of the products we had. And some executives came to me and said, "Hey, how do we replicate the G's they pull going to space here on Earth?" Within that 2 months, that year, 98, 99, we were sponsoring an Indy driver. We sponsored him for 3 years. And I tell you, we got a minute coverage on ABC Sports Global at that time. And this Ace Mannin and again, the energy that we create, the focus, these guys were like, "Man, this is the greatest thing in the world," because those guys are going 225 miles per hour in circles and they don't have a lot of room for error. And we've got a lot of our friends that are pilots. We talk about the military, Jerry. One of them in particular flies for UPS now, and every month he's gone for 2 weeks flying to China. So he's on that 14-hour flight.
That's a long flight, man. Yeah.
He says, I drink away as we're coming for landing. And he said, I take one as we're taking. He goes, I want to be as sharp as I can be. And
having experience, I guarantee you, it does work.
Yeah.
It will sharpen you up because I have found the other thing I like about it is my focus. It really has an impact on my focus and my ability to get things done. And I like that. Caffeine doesn't give that to you.
Well, definitely all the golfers. So we're actually working with some junior PGA right now and that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I play golf, and I swear it took about 3-4 strokes off my game because it helps me focus on those little dimples better, so I don't take my off the ball. So it's amazing. You've got golfers, runners. It's amazing, and I really appreciate y'all having me on, and I'll come on as often as you like. Because there's so much I can talk about.
Well, I'm going to get your email because I got Terry's, but I want to get your email. Feel free to put it in our private chat here over on the right-hand side of the screen. Because I know that Don and I would love to have you on a regular basis, at least once a month, maybe just drop in, and we can give you our State of the Union of using your product,
Awesome.
And I got to point out something else. There's no crash, but you also don't feel all strung out all day. I'm just blown away how clean my brain feels when I'm drinking the product. I've been out now, and I can feel the difference. I've been out for about a week, and I've got to get some more.
Oh,
and
I've talked to Gary a lot. I've talked to over time, and I got to tell you, his brain clean. That's amazing.
I'm not such an idiot.
Reach out to Terry and make sure you get some because and you just get, again, you said the perfect thing. When people really miss our products when they don't take it, because after you've been on it for a while, oh my gosh, it's like I got to get out.
Night and day. It really is. It's so phenomenal, Kevin. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Kevin Kiechler. He is the CEO, president, and head. I'm going to say the word. I'm sorry if I don't want the words to offend you. Head motherfucker over at Fuel Up.
I would have used head honcho, Gary.
I know, but it's the argument.
My title's
Gary, get a haircut, will you?
Get a haircut. I know. Look at this. This is all from drinking your drink. I was shaved. No, I'm just kidding. I had long hair. People, I love it because I'm conservative, and people call me like a hippie, and I'm like, I am not a hippie. Don't call me a hippie. I bathe.
A lot of people get off coffee too. So,
oh man, I tell you, Kevin, thank you so much for being on the show. Again, folks, here it is. Martin, go ahead and share the link again in the chat. Fuel Up Hydration system, and of course, if you use our fuelup.gg/UFO Gary. And you will get your discount, and you can order, and it'll be great, man. This is freaking awesome. I'm so glad, though. See, I'm so energized this morning right now that you don't hear my Southern accent, but you get me at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I'll start talking like this, like, hell, man, this place is crazy. Then you'll hear the Virginia accent come out.
Yeah.
Well, when they go to your site, they're able to scroll through all the information and learn a lot about the product as well. So
absolutely. And thanks again for dropping in, Kevin. And I look forward to having you back on again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day, and I look forward to coming back on again.
We salute you, sir.
Thank you.
God bless. Have a great day.
Likewise. Thank you.
So there it is, guys. What a great dude, man.
Hey, we have a super chat from Christian Delorme.
Oh, we do. Imagine that. Christian has money to throw at us. I always feel like a stripper. Throw those $2 at me.
I'd only sent you $1, Gary. If you
well, yeah, I know. Well, look, there's California strippers, it's $1. Canadian strippers, they're a little classier. They get $2. As a faux French, do you guys deliver deliver to Canada. Yes, I guarantee you they do. And go to that website, check it out, dude. I'm serious. Thank you for the super chat on that. And for you, sir, I'm going to play my favorite military one. Here it is.
Hey, here's your free cup of coffee from a lady in Rhode Island. What?
I should like change that to fuel up. Free cup of fuel up. Anyway, thank you so much, Christian. Good to see you guys this morning. And I haven't said good morning to everybody because we had a guest first thing right out of the gate. So let's get in there and say good morning to everybody. We got, of course, first in the house today was Monkey Jeebus. Thank you. Come again. Love of my life, Anima Confusa. Christian Delorme. Fish Belly is here. Andy Morrow. Dragon Ruse. Alex Moore. John Ostains is here. Good morning. Brandon, our good friend, the anime guy. Joe's Atmosphere. Lisa. Let's see. Cavatino Calvermanche and Eastland Burkholder. Good morning, everybody. I thought I saw somebody else in there.
Yeah,
It was Lisa. It was Lisa.
Yeah.
And Lisa is she said that she's a lurker.
And here's more stripper money for you.
Oh, hey, make sure you get it in the band. The garter. I'm sorry, the garter. Gary, you're the drunk into night stripper. Yeah, look, when you went to bed that night, you went to bed with the most beautiful woman in the world. In the morning, you wake up to this. And you're like, Jesus Christ, it's a Sasquatch in my bed. Thank you again for another $2. For that one, you get another one. I brought this one on just for Don Eckert.
You got any good stories I could tell him about how cool Nam is? You know, there's lots of things you expect in war. Carnage, the sleepless nights. But what they don't prepare you for is the incessant use of Fortunate Son.
They really overuse that song so much in Vietnam War movies. But I think I got a new one for you, too. Oh, this one I put together just for you, Don. I love this one.
How do you write women so well?
I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability.
her face drop is just like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And this one I got, and this one I got for you too, Don.
Betty, bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone? Everyone!
Best over actor ever. I mean, he can chew up the scenery, but he does it in such a classy way, man. His movies are so memorable. Gary Oldman is in my top 10 list of favorite actors of all time.
Every time I see him, I think I should shoot him right at the start.
Because he's probably going to be a shitheel that kills somebody. Hey, Slow Horses, Don, check it out. I shit you not, you will like that show. It's a show about the circus over there in the UK. And one team that lives in Slough House, they are fuck ups and they're put together. They couldn't be fired. So what they do is they just congregate them into one house and they end up getting the fucking job done. And he's a troublemaker who's their boss, Gary Oldman. And I'm telling you, it is one of the best espionage shows I've seen in a long time. Really fucking good. Oldman,
Series or a movie?
It's a series, and it airs on Apple, but there are other ways to watch it. You know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? I love that show. I'm addicted to that show. And I tell people all the time, Apple is the streaming service that not enough people are watching because it's actually got some really good stuff over there.
Slow Horses.
Slow Horses. Absolutely one of the best shows on television.
We have Breach.
Oh, no. And it's Monkey Jeebus? Get out of here. I never saw that coming.
I know nothing.
There you go. Let's get a Breach video. Got a couple of new ones, I think. Here's my new favorite one from Bob's Burger.
Go! Use the back door. I'll stall the crowd. Go, go.
So, absolutely. Let's get into this show today. I'm very stoked about learning about this shit because I am fascinated with hanging out with you, Dawn, and knowing you because I learned so much stuff, and I read a lot of books. There are things that you have probably forgotten more than I'll ever learn over the years when it comes to ufology.
Well, it's because I lived it.
Yeah, whereas I'm just, peripheral guy. I wanted to be involved in it, but the asshole here in Missouri from MUFON drove me away. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be working with an asshole. I can't do it, especially if you're not going to fucking pay me. You pay me, I'll work with an asshole. But if I'm doing it for free, now you can go fuck yourself. And I do want to say how much that I support MUFON, but you and I both had bad experiences with them. The exception to the rule, of course, is Chris DePerno, because he's very nice. I like him.
Well,
at least,
a little inside baseball. Okay. Over probably the last 10 years, I've written several papers that involved the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. Now, all of this basically was colored by my experience with the original director of MUFON, Walt Andrus. Now, hey, I'll be the first to admit that I, in fact, do have my rough edges. Okay.
No way.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, but I got to admit it. It's if I'm truthful, there it is. But when I meet somebody, I'm basically happy to meet them. I smile, I hold out my hand, and with Andrus, there's nothing, Gary, that gets to me quicker. Nothing. I mean, nothing than somebody being disrespectful for no reason. Okay. And when that happened, it's like I had a switch in me that got clicked off. And the way to get to me is not to threaten me, because I take a threat as a challenge. Okay, let's see. So anyway, that was, and I told you, in essence, what that was all about back in the day. So anyway, I wrote a number of papers. I had one guy that was a huge fan of my radio show, Dark Matters Radio, that came up to me one day, actually on the Dark Matters Radio fan page, and said, "Hey, Don, what's your take on MUFON?" Because today, MUFON is essentially the only organization out there publicly, nationally, and even internationally, that examines the UFO phenomena. So I thought about that, and I ended up writing this paper about it. And I basically laid out all my reservations and why I had my reservations. And so anyway, I was talking to Bill, our producer at KGRA one day. This is after my show was over. And I said, "Hey, Bill, it's kind of funny. I'm wondering why I hadn't heard from any of your hosts to cover the UFO phenomenon, why I haven't been invited to come on their show and basically, do an interview." And I was literally only half kidding and half serious about that. And he said, "Oh my God, I can get you on the MUFON show right away." And being the smart ass that I can be, I said, well, Bill, you've read my papers about MUFON. If I went on MUFON, I'd have to tell them what I really thought. Oh my God, no, you can't go on, So, so there it is.
Well, there you go. Well, I did want to say that, I really would love to be a part of MUFON. And I got turned off. This is back in the 90s with whoever it was I talked to there. And it was a big turnoff. I was in Lebanon, Missouri. They say Lebanon, not Lebanon. Das Wolf knows what I'm talking about. They're from Lebanon, Missouri. It's like, it's Lebanon. No, son, it's called Lebanon.
Kind of like Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah.
North of Lebanon is Versailles.
Versailles. Oh, my God. They butcher. I got to tell you, the one that pisses me off more than anything, having grown up in Virginia, is when someone says Monticello. I just want to punch somebody in the face when they say that. I said, look, how do you say mountain in Italian? Monte. That's right. And how do you say the musical instrument that you hold upright with the bow? What's that called? It's a cello. And what it means is mountain of music, Monticello. I said, don't fucking, Missouri that shit up, man. It pisses me off when people mispronounce that. It's like, yeah, it's Monticello in Virginia, but here in Illinois or Missouri, we pronounce it Monticello. It's like, fuck off with that shit. Yeah, Versailles,
Yeah, I used to call it Versailles. My mom would get all upset at that.
That's tough shit because you're saying it right. All we need is one generation to stop saying things in a stupid way, and it goes the fuck away. One generation. That's all it takes. Stop
Jeebus is being an asshole.
No way.
So Jeebus is being his normal
you
self?
A lesbian.
Hold on. I think I have something.
Well, is a lesbian a woman that used to be a lesbian?
I like that one. That was a good one. For that one, you get the undateable back door.
All right. Where's your fuse box?
It's by the back door.
There you go. So, by the way, Anima watches that show with me now. We watch it. It's one of those shows that cheers us both up. It's one of those shows that just when you watch it, it makes you happy. We just don't have enough shows like that. And that show got canceled after its third hit season. They did great, and they canceled it. And it always bugs me because it's they will keep a show going that's not funny. Like I know people are probably going to get irritated with me. Third Rock from the Sun was just a dumb show. I would probably never watch again. Unfunny. I didn't find it funny. I love Lithgow. I love Jane Curtin. I get a kick out of them. That show, not funny. News Radio was funny. And
I feel the same way about Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, I don't think I've laughed very much at that, but I love the characters. And so therefore, that's the engaging thing. I enjoy watching these characters do stupid shit. It's like a show about nothing. But News Radio is actually a really good show. And sadly, Phil Hartman got murdered. And when he got murdered, the show's just, it still had the viewership. People were still watching. It just wasn't as funny anymore because you were aware that he was dead watching the show. And they kept it going for one more season or two more seasons?
He wasn't just dead. He was whacked by his insane
wife. Yep. She and Andy Dick holds a lot of responsibility for that shit. And that was weighing on me at the time because I found out that she had been clean for 48 months when he talked her into doing some cocaine at a party. And she went on a bender that led directly to his murder. And she holds all responsibility for it. It's like I've always said, it really sucks when somebody kills other people and then kills himself when they just should have off themselves for hurting another human being. And fuck those kids' lives up for forever, their children. and took away probably one of the funniest guys in Hollywood in a long time, because I love Phil Hartman. I idolize that guy. He was a graphic artist, man. Got his start doing graphic arts, and did the comedy on the side until it paid off. He designed the logo for the band Poco, and he did their album covers.
Who?
Poco. It's an 80s band.
Never heard of him.
It's an 80s band. People know who it is that know the 80s, or went to the 80s. It's not the Doors.
No, it's not.
It's not the Doors. But hey, let's get into this thing here. Dr. Marina Popovic, Russia's Chuck Yaeger.
Popovic.
Yeah, tomato.
Larry.
Fuck you. No, I'm not going to say it. Popovic. When I see that name, I just automatically Popovic is how it comes out. But it's Popovic.
Well,
you
I
know
find this ironic considering you were just complaining about how
shut up,
people,
John.
People say the name's wrong.
Kick him off the show. No.
Well, it's a kind of a not a exceedingly long story, but it's a long story with a lot of ins and outs. Anybody that was there, as we all will remember, in the 80s, most people over here in the West, Union, the way that it had been viewed for, at that time, since the early 50s, everybody thought that sooner or later armed conflict would break out between the Soviets and the West. Part of the Soviet juggernaut that everybody was terrified of was their armored corps. Okay. If in fact war would have broken out, probably starting in Europe, the Soviets would have probably engaged in some tactical nuclear strikes, not strategic, tactical to begin with, and then charged division after division of tanks through the Fulda Gap in Germany. And things would have been not good. And let's face it, with what the Germans did to the Russians in World War II, don't think there weren't a lot of Russians that would have loved to have gotten into that Germany again and just chopped it up. A lot of hard feelings there, and understandably so. So, at any rate, they invade Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. And our illustrious commander-in-chief at the time was that peanut farmer, Jimmy Carter. And he retaliated by pulling our Olympic team, from the Olympics, the 1980 Olympics. Now, things were going nuts in Eastern Europe. Poland was on the verge of a revolution. Lech Walesa. You remember Lech? He was calling for strikes all over. Things were tense, okay? They really were tense. And the Russians were going through a series of general secretaries. Yuri Andropov was one. He ended up dying. He had been KGB. Brezhnev was the one that went first. There used to be a joke about all these old bastards running Russia, okay? And periodically they would keel over. Everybody would get excited in the West. Oh, maybe a new frontier is opening up and we'll be able to coexist. And then finally Gorbachev took over. Now, when the Iron Curtain fell, okay, when the East German wall came tumbling down, it was unbelievable if you were there. I, of course, was old enough to recognize what in the hell was going on. For years, I thought that sooner or later, okay, we were going to fight the Russians. I fought the Russians by proxy in Vietnam. I still have Russian shrapnel.
Yeah, a mixture of Russia and communist China.
Yeah, in my back. I took a Russian SKS round through my chest. So, I got to tell you, I didn't have any great love for the commies. And suddenly this happened. Ronald Reagan, when he was president from 81 through, about 89, before George H.W. took
Herbert
Walker.
Herbert.
Did you want to
I was just
continue,
making fun
Gary?
of his middle name.
Chikari. Did you want to? So anyway, okay, it was a wild, wacky time. Now, when that happened, okay, suddenly, in essence, the entire Communist Party in the Soviet Union collapsed. They just collapsed. It was unfreaking believable. And even more surprising, suddenly they were fucking selling everything. State secrets, weapons, you name it, it was for sale, okay? Because, excuse me, the Soviet economy had totally collapsed. Totally collapsed. It was gone.
And we drove them.
Okay?
Yep.
We drove them to that by forcing them to overspend on stuff in order to compete with us. It was great.
Ronald
Star
Reagan
Wars,
did Ronald Reagan did it.
That's right, Ronald Reagan.
With the Star Wars initiative. And we covered that rather extensively in UFO magazine. So anyway, one of the people that ended up traveling to the former Soviet Union was TV newsman George Knapp. Now, Knapp, as probably all of you know, is the guy responsible for the top secret Area 51 reports that he did. He brought out that enigmatic guy, Bob Lazar, whether you believe his story or not. It created literally a worldwide sensation. And Knapp went over there and started talking to some of the top former Soviet UFO people, experts in government, scientists. And then he discovered a story that was amazing because, hey, look, if you have been following the UFO field for any length of time and you've been curious about how our adversaries were reacting to it, and if it was happening there, like it was reported happening here, it was because for a long time, going right up to Joseph Stalin and his death in 1953, the Russians, the communists, had been saying this was all a Western provocation. But as it turned out, they were having as many mysterious encounters and deaths over there as we had here in the West. Well, Knapp discovered one incident where a Soviet missile battery, a nuclear missile battery, one day had a UFO come in. When the UFO was hovering above the battery, their launch controls activated, and the launch controls began a countdown to launch nuclear missiles. The Russians freaked out. They did everything they could do to stop this, and nothing. And then, apparently, right before launch, the UFO, which had to be responsible, turned everything off and flew off. Knapp did a report on that. It ran on television all over the West. Shocking. Now, I had a friend over here who had been born in the Ukraine during the Soviet era, a guy by the name of Paul Stonehill. Paul himself had an extraordinary history in this phenomenon. And initially, his interest began while he was still living within the bounds of the Soviet Union, met an old Siberian bush pilot, and a guy that was a pilot that used to fly around Siberia delivering supplies and God knows what all. Well, he told Paul about an encounter he had with a UFO. And that freaked Paul out, and he began researching. Well, when he got out of the Ukraine, he ended up going to South Africa, where he became a correspondent, and then traveling around. Ultimately, he ended up here in the US, in California. So anyway, Paul and I became friends, and he put me in contact with some of his associates in the USSR, the former USSR. Now, I think we're about ready to take a break.
Yeah, we got to take a break here, and we'll come back. Remember where you're at there, Don. Chanel, go ahead and give us our first commercial break. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
A birthday without her mom, an anniversary without her husband, her wedding day without her dad. These are the days when military families feel it most of all. The loss of their soldier, their sailor, their airman, their Marine, their Coast Guardsman. Families never forget their loved ones lost to war or illness or suicide. Families never forget, and neither do we. We are TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. We provide resources, support, and comfort to heal the hearts and meet the needs of grieving military families, all at no cost to them. Your generosity can make an enormous difference in the lives of the families of our fallen military heroes. Our military families need to know they are not alone and they are not forgotten. Show them your support at TAPS.org.
Question facing humanity is on
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh wow, we survived! Welcome back from the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
You know, just to tell you, Don, Anima said that when I do that voice and she fell asleep during a show and they go to commercial break, it wakes her up every time. That was funny. So thank you, Chanel. Chanel had some trouble. That's why we had a little delay there. She was having trouble finding the video. And, we don't use carts like in actual radio. We have videos lined up. And she finally noticed it was right at the top. And I told her, I said, yeah, if it were a snake, it would have bit you.
Well, John Osteen's just put a curious note.
Yeah, him and Cavatino both said something interesting. First with this, because of Reagan, we got all 4 Iowa-class battleships back in fighting form. That's right, brother. That is right. And yeah, John Osteen says, can Chanel take out or bring us back to some 5th dimension, up and away? Yeah. My beautiful blue. Yeah, bumper music. I wish we could do that, but no, we get ganked for that. I guarantee you, they'd pull the show. Man, you do not mess around with the managers of those songs. They hunt for shows on YouTube. They hunt for them. But Zax is here. Good morning. Who else jumped in? I want to say good morning, everybody, before we move on. We got Penny is here. Good morning, Penny. And the Peter Vinkman fan site is here as well. And of course, Zax. Good morning, guys. Hope everybody's having a good hump day.
Yeah, you forgot Real Weight Nation.
Oh, is Real Weight Nation? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's right. Real Weight Nation is here. Good morning, Wade. And by the way, he apologized to me. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to apologize, because I told him I was super busy. I'm like, no, I'm sorry I'm busy. That I'm having trouble getting some of the stuff out there and helping my friends. And I want to help all my friends. And I don't charge my friends for a lot of the help I give. But it's so hard to find time. And once I do, I will get it done. It's usually very quickly once I do it. But thanks again, guys. We had Kevin on earlier, Kiechler, the CEO, president, head honcho. I'll say it right this time. Right, Don? Head honcho over at Fuel Up. It was great having him on. And now we are talking about
not the head motherfucker. That was not cool. No.
I thought it was adorable. There we go. We are talking about this lady, and she was Russia's Chuck Yaeger, and you were talking about Afghanistan, right?
No, I was talking about Paul Stonehill meeting that Siberian bush pilot.
That was it.
Then, yeah. Pay attention, Gary. Pay attention. Drink some Fuel Up, Gary. Get focused.
I need some cocaine.
Anyway. So anyway, Paul put me in touch with some of these people. As a matter of fact, and there is a big expat community of former Russians and others from the former USSR here in California. And Paul, there was a television crew coming in from Russia. By this time, it was the CIS, the Russian CIS. And I don't know if he knew some of them or he ended up talking to them or whatever. But they wanted to interview me as a UFO expert. And we all know what an expert is, right? It's simply a spurt under pressure. But but they came out, and of course, I had to rub my Vietnam veteran status in their nose. I didn't know if it would piss any of them off, but I talked about getting shot by Russian weapons, and I wasn't real happy about that. And they probably left that on the cutting room floor. But anyway, after that happened, things started to occur that would have been in the past unthinkable. Some of these former big Russian elite status people began coming over here to the West. And one of them was retired Colonel Dr. She was a PhD in avionics, Marina Popovic. Well, something else I must tell you about before I get into Marina. I had become, by this time, close friends with Zecharia Sitchin. Now, Zecharia Sitchin is the guy that wrote a series of scholarly academic type books that began with his first book, The 12th Planet. Now, Sitchin had also been born in the USSR. He was Jewish. His family were able to escape out of Russia or out of the USSR and emigrated to Palestine, to what today is Israel. And he grew up there. And he ended up going to Europe, to the London School of Economics, where he got his degree. Now, he was always fascinated by ancient biblical history and stories going back to the Sumerians. And through his academic career, and there will be people today, and I got to tell you, they just piss me off, people today who claim that he could not read correctly ancient Sumerian on the cuneiform tablets that have been discovered over the years. But the fact of the matter was, he could. And he began to translate many of these. And these tablets, these cuneiform tablets, told an absolutely mind-blowing story that in ancient times, going back at least 420,000 years ago, beings from another planet came to Earth in the search for rare minerals, elements, and ores. These beings were called by the Sumerians the Anunnaki. Now, what that translates to is those who from heaven to earth came. In other words, extraterrestrial astronauts. And they mined gold, among other things, here on planet Earth. And for those who think that sounds like bullshit, okay, gold mines have been discovered in South Africa that are dated back over 300,000 years ago. Now, who in the hell would have been mining gold 320 or more thousand years ago?
Yeah,
gold, when it comes to metal, is basically useless. It is not hard enough to create tools with. They're too soft. The gold is too soft, etc. But what is gold good for, Gary? Other than wedding rings, like I've got
it's
here.
an excellent conductor.
Exactly right.
The best HDMI cords and communication cords have gold in them. It's not just fiber optics that are great. Gold is amazing.
So somebody was coming here a long time ago mining gold. Now, according to the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, the Anunnaki, the workers, became very dissatisfied with their lot. And basically, they rebelled at the backbreaking work that they were required to do. So, the Anunnaki came up with a plan. to create a worker from the early proto-humans that were already here. Gene splicing, DNA, all that kind of business to create the first Adam, ADAM, the first Adam, which translated as worker. Now, as an aside, all of what we today take for granted from the Old Testament of the Bible originally emanated from Sumerian culture. Okay, now Sumeria, when I was in college, when I was in school, was always considered the first civilization that began about 6,000 years ago. But case in point, humans go back much, much further than that. And it's hard to believe that the human being, Homo sapiens sapien, okay, which if you were to pull one out of 20,000 years ago, if you were able to go back in time and grab one and match him up with somebody here today, bottom line is there's virtually no difference. Homo sapiens sapien from 25, 30, 50,000 years ago, as far as physiology, are virtually identical with us. So something strange was going on. Well, these beings in Sumeria very likely were refugees from a much earlier culture that was destroyed during the Younger Dryas event. In other words, the end of the Ice Age. But that's story for another time. Get back to our thing with Marina. So Zechariah, one of the books he wrote was called Genesis Revisited. Now, I was getting all of those books at UFO Magazine from the publisher Bearing Company because we were doing reviews on all of those. I did a number of interviews with Sitchin, and this stuff was, I found this stuff beyond fascinating. Well, in Genesis Revisited, Zechariah was talking about a lot of things, not the least of which was the Phobos 2 encounter. So, I discovered from Sitchin that there had been two Soviet, because this was before the fall of the Soviet Union, two Soviet probes had been sent to the planet Mars that were launched in 1988. Phobos 1 and Phobos 2. These probes, unbeknownst to everybody here in the West, had a heavy NASA influence. As it turned out, all the telemetry coming back from these probes were being fed through the NASA relay at Goldstone that were then transferred to the Russians at Glavkosmos. Well, the first probe disappeared about a month and a half after launch, and the Soviets blamed it on a combination of human and computer error. The other one got there, Phobos 2, in January of '89. And then the infamous Phobos 2 incident happened, where it apparently encountered a huge, what appeared to be artificial unknown, that ended up ramming the Phobos 2 craft and destroying it. So when Dr. Popovic was traveling over to the West, and I found out who she was a retired Red Air Force colonel, a pilot, fighter pilot. The Russians were not shy about using their female military assets in frontline combat units. She was a fighter pilot. She was a test pilot. And she was equated with Brigadier General Chuck Yaeger, whom we all should know was the first American and the first human being to break the sound barrier in his rocket plane, named after his wife, the glamorous Glennis, back in 47. He exceeded the speed of sound. Well, Popovic got over here, and I had the opportunity to meet her. She was down in Phoenix, Arizona, giving lectures. Now, she couldn't speak English, so she had a Russian translator, a young lady with her that spoke very good English. And we got in touch with her entourage and told them who we were, and we flew down to meet her. Well, she was talking openly about UFO encounters in the Soviet Union. So when I got down there and I met her, I interviewed her over 2 days. I asked her about these Soviet Phobos probes, and she was shocked, literally shocked that I knew anything about it. Because at that time, it still was not known that NASA had ended up being an integral part of that mission. Now, originally, when NASA and Glavcosmos were collaborating, the idea was to send a joint manned mission to Mars with Russian cosmonauts and American astronauts. And at the time that this was being discussed back in the 80s, they were thinking that we would probably be able to go to Mars about 2014, maybe 2015. Obviously, that never happened. But that was the thinking then. Well, on board the Phobos 2 craft were a number of scientific experiments, mostly Russian, but some NASA experiments. And what they wanted to do was to put Phobos 2 in orbit around Mars, primarily to examine the Martian moonlet Phobos. Now, Phobos and Deimos, the two moons of Mars, have always been a mystery because they're in retrograde orbit. And not only that, but human astronomers never even discovered them until the 1870s. But our equipment was good enough that we should have seen them long before the 1870s, Phobos and Deimos. And one of the mysteries, and actually one of the rather astonishing things about those two moonlets were there were some world-class astronomers that believed that something or someone put them in orbit around Mars artificially, okay? They were not a natural thing. And as late as the 1950s, there were actually some Soviet astronomers that believed that Phobos, at least, if not Deimos, was an artificial body. Okay? In other words, it was not rock and minerals and whatever, but it was a built artificial space station. They actually were discussing that in the late 50s. So the Russians and NASA wanted to find out what in the hell is Phobos. Now, the plan was if we go to Mars, we're going to use Phobos as a stepping stone. In other words, the cosmonauts and astronauts will basically land on Phobos, and use Phobos as a stepping stone to go down to the surface of Mars, do their thing, and then come back to Phobos and ultimately go back to Earth. Well, one of the things on the Phobos 2 probe was an extremely powerful laser. Okay. A laser that had a very powerful and even destructive beam. What they wanted to do was fire a series of laser bursts into Phobos and then to basically examine the resultant gases that the beam would have caused to make a determination on what it was made out of. And while it was in orbit, Phobos 2 was in orbit around Mars. Mars has always been believed to be a geologically dead planet. Yeah, it's got the largest volcano known in the entire solar system. Okay. Mars has the largest volcano of any planet that we know of in our solar system, but it's dead. All right. But Phobos 2 discovered a series of what it described as hotspots on Mars. Now, when I talked to Zacharias Sitchin about that, Sitchin's belief was that the Anunnaki or somebody else had come back to Mars and reactivated some ancient space bases on Mars. That was Sitchin's thinking. And then Phobos 2 photographed an anomaly that still is being debated vigorously today. And that was the Phobos 2 anomaly shot where you can see this 15.5-mile long thing, this object that Glabkosmos said was a mile in diameter. And you can see Phobos in the foreground, this thing behind it. And that's when Glabkosmos said this thing turned toward their probe and rammed it. They said it turned Phobos 2 into a spinner. Now, I'm laying all this on Popovic. Like I said, she was shocked. She lived in Star City, okay, which was where their scientific elite, they had an enclave there. And at the height of the Soviet Union, she was in the creme de la creme of Soviet society. Her husband had been General Pavel Popovic. General Popovic was the first cosmonaut or astronaut in human history to rendezvous with another spacecraft in orbit, which predated what we were doing with Mercury, Gemini, or Apollo in 1962. Remember how advanced the Russians were.
Yeah, but they didn't have Tang.
No, they didn't. They didn't have Tang. And you're still a dick, Gary, but they didn't have Tang. No. But what they did have were rockets that could get a satellite up, Sputnik. They had rockets that could launch astronauts or cosmonauts into orbit, Yuri Gagarin, and they had astronauts or cosmonauts that could go up and rendezvous with another spacecraft. So they had the Americans scared shitless at the time. This is when President Kennedy said, what anima? What did I? Oh, the creme de la creme. I butchered. She said I butchered. I did that deliberately, actually. The creme de la creme. So anyway, Jack Kennedy said, we're going to go to the moon. We're going to get there before the end of the decade, and we're going to bring our astronauts back safely, which ultimately we ended up doing. But we had a hell of a actually deadly space race with the Russians, because during this period of time, they lost a lot of cosmonauts in testing and other things. We lost ours with Apollo 1. And the idea at the time was to go to the moon, set up lunar bases. There were things on the moon that we could do cheaper, better, etc., ad nauseum on the moon than we could do down here on Earth. And we discovered helium-3, which would be a very good thing for our nuclear program if we could harvest that stuff.
Yeah.
And make a long story short, we went 6 times and landed, brought our guys back, and then we closed the door on it. Now, the show isn't about that, but Popovic then began telling me about all the lethal encounters in the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, with the Red Air Force and UFOs. Hey, the UFOs had the Russians freaked. Initially, early on, they thought they were Western technology. They thought they were coming from America or maybe Europe. Of course, they weren't. All right. They were demonstrating, just like with us, technology that we couldn't even begin to hope to match. Then she told me something that I ended up writing an article for Omni Magazine. They paid me for it. And I might add, they paid me a nice fee. But
I miss
never
Omni.
ran it. Yeah. They never ran my article. And what did my article have to say? Well, President George H.W. Bush, and if you're old enough to remember this, you may recall, went over to visit Secretary General Gorbachev in Malta in the late 80s, and Bush ended up taking a tremendous amount of heat in the press for this, because it was at the height of a terrible storm, and he was on a naval vessel, got onto a small craft, traveled over to Gorbachev's yacht in this small craft at the height of this storm, and took a lot of hits because basically he put his life at risk. And they thought, the press, that it was just a political maneuver. According to what Popovic told me, and by the way, she knew Gorbachev.
Right.
Knew him very well. She knew Gorbachev. She said that the reason Bush went to meet Gorbachev involved what happened to their Phobos 2 probe. They viewed that as a hostile, aggressive act in destroying their probe by this huge craft. The only thing you can call it. Huge.
And I want to add this. I want to add this in here because I brought this just for you, Don. I made this little clip solely for you because I want to put your face on this.
Get out of the wire to every squadron around the world. Tell them how to bring those sons of bitches down.
I want to get your face on that because Robert Loggia did it. Robert Loggia. Fucking Robert Loggia was awesome in that. Also a former Marine, by the way. He served in the Marine Corps. He's a badass. Vietnam. But anyway, so the question I have is like, what was, because I haven't heard her reaction yet to what you've said to, what you said to her. What was her reactions to you on this?
She was shocked. They had no remember
That you knew it, or
oh yes. Remember what kind of society they had been living in their entire
They're like
lives.
Scientology today.
They were restricted. They had secret police everywhere. If you stepped out of line, you could very easily end up on your way to the gulag. Okay. Security and secrets were taken to the nth degree in seriousness. All right. And here I was talking to her openly about something that she thought nobody could, except, well, maybe the CIA, but nobody would know about this in the West. How could they? They're Russian Soviet secrets. And here's this fucking American talking to her about this shit. Okay. So yeah, she was shocked. But the other thing was she was being very open with me about stuff before that they would have never dreamed about being open about. For example, I asked her about her husband, General Pavel Popovic. And God, I wish I'd have had a camera to get a photo of her face when I mentioned him, because she told me that son of a bitch ran off with his secretary and divorced her. What are you going to do? Okay. Yeah. So, you know, it was a very surreal event. Now, at the time, you know, I had been doing a tremendous amount of television here. UFO magazine was media central for anything UFO. And, you know, in those days, in the 90s, the early 90s, early to mid 90s, American television was doing UFO stories weekly. You may remember that. There were all kinds of programs that, like, for example, Encounters. Hard Copy was a big one. Larry King Live, all right, which I did. I don't remember now. It might have been 6, possibly 7 appearances on there until I pissed Larry King off. Okay, but you know, the TV that I was doing, so I knew a lot of these producers. So I called a couple of these guys up. One guy I knew on Hard Copy, and I said, "Hey, how would you like to interview a former Red Air Force military pilot, female military pilot, that is their version, the Russian version of Chuck Yaeger?" And he says, "Oh my God, yeah." Well, Popovich was coming out to LA. So I hooked her and this guy up, and they did a big story on Hard Copy about her. So, you know, she stayed in that. She unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But that lady was, she was
2017.
quite an amazing lady. Huh?
2017.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Did she ever get her revenge on Pavel?
Well, yeah, she foisted that sumbitch off to the secretary. So, yeah.
Well, I know she talked about a lot of incidents where the Soviets recovered a lot of alien ships and stuff.
Well, yeah, John, that is the story. But you know, it's like here. we have allegedly recovered a number of these ships. Now, that actually brings something up to mind that is worth mentioning. Paul Stonehill, this guy that I had mentioned earlier, back about 93, 94, was over at the offices of UFO Magazine one day, and we were talking about some things, and he said that he had been contacted by, what the hell was that guy's name? I think it was Vladimir Zsa, who was a very top Russian ufologist, expert, and scientist. And there had been reports coming in from the Far East, which we're talking in the vicinity of Siberia, of human observers watching in the skies what appeared to be conflict between various UFOs. In other words, these witnesses were claiming they were watching aerial battles. Okay, aerial battles. And Paul told me about that. Then he told me another story from that same area about a lake there where some former Soviet Navy divers, I guess they would have been the equivalent of our Navy SEALs, had been exploring the depths of this lake. And God, I can't now think of the name of the lake, but they encountered humanoid figures in the lake. Several of these divers tried to capture one, bring him to the surface, with the implication being that these humanoids were the basically occupants of what might have been an extraterrestrial covert habitat. All right. And a battle within the water happened, and a number of these Russian divers were killed with no occupants being brought to the surface. And then they basically stayed the hell away from it. Now, this all came from Stonehill. Stonehill's information, as a rule, was top notch. So I never quite knew what to make of that, but I filed it away as being one of those very interesting stories.
Yeah, it is. I know she also said the Tunguska event was UFO related, but I tend to disagree with that because there's too much evidence that it was a cometary fragment that exploded.
Yeah. Back in it was June of 1908 when this thing happened. It's for many years there were a lot of researchers that suggested they found areas within that event that showed a lot of radiation, and the theory was it might have been an extraterrestrial craft that was having some kind of engine problem, and it detonated. But yeah, I agree, John. I believe it was also a bit of a comet that broke up, that came down.
Yeah.
Most of the evidence that I've seen points to that too. But question, John, where did you first hear about the Tunguska blast? Because I know where I first heard about it.
I don't remember where I first heard about it, but I know I've read about it since then because I thought it was
because of a movie.
Oh, was it?
With Dan Aykroyd. Because he mentions it in Ghostbusters.
Frank Edwards is the one that brought it to public attention. in one of his books, either Stranger Than Science or Strange, what the hell was the other one? Strangest Things in the World or something along those lines. Edwards was kind of like a later Charles Fort that would collect these mysterious oddities, and he presented them. And I bought the book when I was in, I believe it was junior high school, one of those scholastic book clubs where they every month or every couple of months they would come out with a list of books, and they were very inexpensive at the time. You get them for like 50 cents a copy. So I used to subscribe to that.
Yeah, I bought tons of books at those scholastic book fairs. I mean, it was I was a voracious reader when I was young, so I still am, but
Yeah, ditto. We're down to the end of the show. Do we have enough time to talk about the other subject, which is the Voronezh? I forget the name of it. It's Russian.
Voronezh.
Park. Voronezh.
Yeah, how many minutes do we have? Looks like
we've got at
about
least 15.
Yeah,
15 minutes.
So in 1989, now remember what all was happening then. CNN had already done a series of special reports on the Bentwaters Woolbridge joint USAF RAF base in the UK. Now, at the time, going into what I had said much earlier when I was talking about Zachariah Sitchin, the Russian Empire, the invasion of Afghanistan, what have you, and Poland beginning to implode, the Woolbridge Air Base was home to our Warthog fighter bomber aircraft, the A-10, and it was also a storage facility for tactical nuclear weapons. Okay. We had tactical nukes there. And if you were around then, if you're old enough to remember, the UK and other places in Europe were having, and I'm sure they were inspired by the Marxist, socialist, communist, extensive demonstrations against the USAF, Air Force, and the RAF for having nuclear weapons. They were demanding that the weapons be taken out of Europe, which the Russians, quite frankly, would have loved if that would have happened. Now, in Christmas of 1980, this UFO event happened there, which, among other things, included the UFOs flying above the weapons storage areas, and they shined or fired some beams into that. It's a matter of record. Now, what the hell were we talking about originally? The Voronezh site.
Yeah.
So Voronezh, okay, which was a Soviet city, the Russians were, as it later turned out, very aware of all these UFO incursions because they were happening there too. And the Red Air Force routinely would send jets up to intercept these craft. Well, I believe it was on a day in September when one of these objects flew into the city and landed, by all reports, in a park in front of literally thousands of Soviet citizens. And of all people to report this to the world was the TASS news agency. Okay? Now, later, I went on Larry King. As a matter of fact, it was my first appearance on Larry King Live. Pat Buchanan was covering for King that night. King was on a honeymoon, one of his honeymoons. And that appearance in itself ended up being very controversial. But at the very end of that broadcast, I said that Tass was not known for having a sense of humor. They were the official Communist Party, news agency. They reported, of course, according to their slant, but they reported news as they saw it, and they didn't put any humor in it. Well, when they did that, this caused all the major media outlets in the United States, and I presume Europe, to report on this legitimately. I mean, shit, I even remember Dan Rather talking about this, and they did not have their usual smirk. Now, at the end of that broadcast that I did with King and Pat Buchanan, and I know I've already told this story, but I remarked about General Douglas MacArthur in his last public appearance before he died at West Point, where he, in fact, warned the cadets that at some time in the future, they might be required to confront, and MacArthur used very flowery language, but basically a cosmic evil from off this world. And Buchanan went ballistic. I had a copy of his speech. I would have read the pertinent paragraph to him, but unfortunately we were out of time. And then the next issue of the MUFON Journal, I was castigated by the MUFON editor, a guy by the name of Dennis Stacy, about mentioning that. And he said words to the effect of, well, I could see UFO research going down the drain. But then suddenly he was snowed under by people all across the United States sending him copies of the speech, okay? And that sumbitch never did say sorry, okay? He never did.
Yeah.
There, John, are you happy? John Osteen says he was waiting for some bitch. So
yeah, it's like so far he was waiting for it. He got it through the ID4 thing, but now he's got it from you. I would suspect that if you met that cocksucker, this is how it would have gone.
Your shoelace is untied.
Another one. I love Bruce's stuff, man.
Now I swear, the next one of you primates even touches me.
One of the greatest films ever made. And then, of course, we had two breaches. And so here's your breach video.
What did I just tell you? Who's the pitcher? Who's the catcher?
You're the pitcher and the catcher. You're the pitcher and the catcher. See?
I got to tell you, man. All in all, though, the reports are that there were children and families in that park that day, right?
Yeah.
There were kids playing soccer.
Yeah, and just multiple witnesses, both adult and child, that saw this. And it was more than one alien that came out of this vehicle, right?
Yes.
And,
yes. And I mentioned on King to Buchanan that they appeared to be wearing an environmental suit, okay? Because they were described as looking almost robotic or something. So
well, that begs the questions, are some of the contacts that we've made or seen been actual living entities, or were they androids or something? Drones?
Who knows? Who knows? Because both types of encounters have been mentioned.
I have the description from the New York Times of that era. That it's a three-eyed creature about 9 feet tall, fashionably dressed in silver overalls and bronze boots with a disc on its chest.
That was what they described?
Yeah.
Each one of them looking or just one?
That one of them, the other one they described as a robot.
That's interesting. So they actually differentiated in their description.
Yeah.
Man, I got to tell you. I know that here, I'm going to share my screen real quick here. There's some images found online that I thought were interesting. Here's one. And here's another one that I saw recently. Another illustration. And this one shows the two living things in the robotic one.
Here is something to consider. And I've thought about this, that the Anunnaki that the Sumerians talked about way back in the day,
right?
Okay, were described as giants. Okay, anywhere from maybe 7 to 10 feet tall. Now, there's been an underlying stream of data going back hundreds of years, especially among archaeologists, about finding giant skeletons.
Yeah, what tribe was it in the U.S. that talked about going to war with them?
Yes,
killing them.
Yes, cannibalistic giants.
Yeah,
red
and they
hair.
drove them into a cave and then burned them in there. And then, like almost half a century later, archaeologists found remains.
Yes,
like 1931, I think.
Yes,
and even one of the daughters of one of the chiefs wrote about it, and it's published about these giants, red-headed giants.
Yes. Yeah. So apparently, at some point, and it's something that mainstream today still refuse to acknowledge, that we, in fact, did play host to giants. Now, who they were, where they came from, even in the Bible, Goliath. And if you go to Genesis chapter 1, verses, I think it's 4 through 6, they talk about the angels that came to earth that found human women desirable, took as many wives as they wanted, and their progeny ended up being the Nephilim, or men of renown that were allegedly giants. And then later, okay, the implication was God punished the earth by the great flood to wash these evil giants away. That was the biblical take on it. So,
yeah, and in fact, the more recent version of Noah movie talks about them, and I was fascinated by that movie. I actually was, with what's his name, Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
it was not bad. I enjoyed it. Anthony Hopkins is in it, as I recall, too. Plays what's his name, the oldest man from the past. We're at the end of the show. Oh crud! That was a fun show, guys. I really enjoyed it. Kevin, I really liked him. I'd like to have him back. What do you think, Don?
Sure, absolutely.
Find out more about how things are going there, and talk more about product. So I got to tell you, I normally am not a person that's like interested in selling a product. I freaking love that stuff, man.
Mark, my buddy Mark thinks I should start charging for these history lessons. What do you think?
Well, I'd rather owe you all my life than she. But as we do sales on this thing, you and I are splitting this for UFO Wednesday and for Dangerous Military Nerds. That's a split right down the middle. So you guys are supporting both Don and me. But Monkey Jeebus, I want to thank you for being here, buddy. Let's see, Anima Confusa, Love of My Life, Christian DeLorme, Fishbelly, Andy Morrow, Dragon Ruse, Alex Moore, John Ostains, Brandon, the anime guy, Joe's Atmosphere, and of course, Lisa, who has been dwelling and finally jumped into the chat today. Thank you, Lisa, for dropping in.
Is she a troll?
I do not think so. I think she was pretty awesome in the chat.
No, I know Lisa from other channels. Yeah, she's a nice person.
She was very friendly and had some interesting things to say.
No, I didn't mean troll in a bad way. I meant troll like Gary's a troll in Scott's garage.
But I live in
a lurker.
Garage. Cavatino, Gaverman Che, Eastland Burkholder. Let's see who else. Peter Vickman, Fan Site, Penny, Real Wade Nation. Let's see. Zax, Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs is here. Hi, Courtney. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody. Did I get everybody? Martin, did I get everybody? I think I did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yay, me. Yay. And then, of course, we have some starring comments. How much? Oh, yeah.
Dude, we have to go.
We got to go. That's it. See you guys next Wednesday. Don't forget this afternoon.
Fun.
Dangerous
Been real
Nerds
fun.
With Ron Lurie, director of The Outpost. Ooh.